Hey everybody, welcome back to another 10-minute Marvel video. I'm Petter, and today we have an interesting rumor to talk about around one of the Disney Plus shows that seems to have been really confirmed at this point, or nearly confirmed. The idea that they're probably going to be doing a Nova show. And this piece of news over here rumor I should say, popped up about a potential plot. And it's an interesting idea. I'm sure that you've probably already skimmed the rumor by now, but Nova series going to have a group of Novas, a group of Nova Corps members, led by Richard Rider, fighting against Annihilus. And Greg and I talk about this some on the podcast 10 Minute Marvel. You can find it here on YouTube or wherever you get your friendly neighborhood podcasts from. But I wanted to do a separate video on this because Annihilation, it's a story that I've been excited for Marvel to do for a while after I read the comics. And to me, this is a pretty solid spot and place to do it. Now, could this be a movie? Let's kind of talk about that as well. And honestly, the answer is yes. This could be a 2-hour movie with Annihilus coming in and the Novas fighting against Annihilus, probably bringing in the new Guardians of the Galaxy team, kind of meshing all that together under a single umbrella of this cosmic stuff. But I like it better as a show. First off, I don't think you have to change that much about it because you're still going to have the Novas facing off against the Annihilation Wave, Annihilus and his minions, and you can still bring in the Guardians of the Galaxy team. We don't have the heaviest hitters, let's put it that way, in the Guardians anymore. It's going to be more the talent that you would expect to probably be able to get to show up on a Disney Plus show. Obviously, Disney Plus shows aren't cheap to make or anything like that. So, I'm trying to remember who all was on the team, but you had like Raglan, you had Rocket and Groot. I could see those two getting moved off to the side. But then you had Adam Warlock and Phyla Vell there as well, and I forget if Cosmo was with them or not. I think Cosmo was, but you'd be able to keep that group a little bit smaller, have those cosmic characters, plus then have them team up with the Nova Corps members, the Novas as they put it here. And I like the idea of a Richard Rider leading them too. Obviously that falls in line with the comics. The comics, when an Annihilation Wave comes, when Annihilation happens, it is going to be Richard Rider leading a group, kind of, that I believe has Star-Lord and Drax in it, who aren't necessarily members of the Guardians fully at that point, or there's not even maybe a fully formed Guardians team at that point. So I like the idea for the show. And I think this is one of those things where the show can maybe do better than a movie would. But I have the reason why it could do better and the reason why it could be worse than having it as a movie. First off, why it could be worse? Well, the Annihilation Wave is supposed to be huge, led by Annihilus. These are bug-like creatures, which means that is a big CGI ask. Though less so than you may think, because once you have Annihilus and a few key members of the Annihilation Wave, you can kind of copy and paste and do minor variations for a lot of the rest of them. For the giant swarm, you can just use similar assets, flip them, do different things with them. But once you have that kind of that framework done, that wireframe done for them, you should have a little bit more flexibility. However, even with that, it's still not going to be cheap. But the reason I like it here is Annihilus is a big bad guy. He's a very powerful, big threat. However, he's not as dynamic a threat as Thanos, as Doom, as Magneto, Apocalypse, any of those coming up. Annihilus is just a little bit more bent on, well, annihilation. So a bit simpler of a villain. And I don't know that he would play super well in a movie, and for being so big, it doesn't even feel like he should just have a single movie. He should maybe have a couple of them. So how do you manage to do that without it feeling like there's this big bad, but you can't really connect to him? That's where I think a show can do better, because a show can slow down the pace that you need to move at, not of the annihilation wave, but of the characters. Because now, instead of it being about Annihilus is coming, we have to fight Annihilus, it can be Annihilus is here, Annihilus is destroyed, how are we surviving, what are we doing, how are we trying to get ahead of Annihilus, do we have hope? All of those things can really be delved into and slowed down. Like, even the comics, well, certainly there is action in the comics, they spend that time with the characters being like, how do you make this work? How can you survive against this horde of insects led by annihilation? Well, led by Annihilus. How can you survive? How does the universe not just get fully overrun by these guys? So, like I said, I think that works better as a show. But I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on this. Is the Nova series the right spot to do this? And keep in mind, this just kind of popped in my head, so I want to cover it as well. But keep in mind that they want to do multi-season shows now. So the first season can just be about all hope being lost and putting themselves in a really bad spot and probably having some last-ditch Hail Mary effort to escape. And then the second season can be spent, if they do multiple seasons, who knows, but it could be spent finding that thing that can stop Annihilus. The rebellion is building back up to stop Annihilus. And then a third season, if they were to do, is going to be those face-offs against Annihilus, and it's going to be Annihilus, his side, losing power, coming back stronger, and then that final confrontation. But let me know your thoughts on all of this down in the comment section below. And if you enjoy this content, please give the video a thumbs up. I want to thank you all for checking out the videos here on 10 Minute Marvel. If you enjoy the content, please subscribe as well. We appreciate everybody who has and everybody who is checking out the videos and helping this channel grow. If you want to check out the podcast where Greg and I have a different type of conversation about Annihilus and annihilation and this idea, you can do that here on YouTube. Click onto the channel, subscribe if you haven't already. Again, we appreciate everybody who has and who is checking out the videos. And then click on the podcast tab or search for 10 Minute Marvel wherever you get your friendly neighborhood podcasts from. But with that, we'll see you next time.